Welcome to Bullet Cast, the Bullet Catcher Gaming Podcast. In this episode, we will be talking about Wildlands. The guests in today's episode will be Hammer, Ghost Recon Call Sign, Sandylands, Tyrant, Knuckles, Tyrant Slayer, and I'm your voice host, Grandpa Adub. And let's welcome Andy to the show.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Thanks everyone for being here. Just really quickly, we've recently hit 1,000 people on the Discord. So if you're interested in joining up, being part of the podcast, you can jump onto the Discord and put your name down, and we'll get you on one. Excuse me. We thought we'd talk about Wildlands whilst we're waiting for the new update to finally arrive, whatever that might be. The last few podcasts have been very kind of not negative, but obviously there's a lot of negative energy around Breakpoint at the moment. So we thought that we would try and kind of go a bit upbeat and talk about Wildlands, which we haven't talked about that much, and just kind of cover what made Wildlands great, the kind of things maybe that are in Wildlands that you'd like to see in a future game, or what Breakpoint could have learned from Wildlands, perhaps. Talk about its experiences, its DLCs, things like that. And that's it. I mean, would anyone like to start us off? I mean, I think the best place to start really is what's everyone's overall opinion of Wildlands? Is it still beloved like it was, or do you feel it's
Um,
not as much? Now it's a few years
so
in.
so I think Tarrant and I could go ahead and start if you want to, Tarrant. We've been kind of playing Wildlands recently the last couple of days.
Yeah, no, we have. Me and Knuckles recently got into it because we had joined a milsim on it. But before I tagged along, I started playing it about a week or two ago, and I've dealt with the stuff on Breakpoint and the positives and negatives with that, and coming back to Wildlands was definitely a breath of fresh air. Just the overall atmosphere, the different biomes. If I wanted to go and, like take pictures of guys in the jungle or even go and operate in the desert, the diversity there was plenty enough that you had complete and total control on what you wanted to do that day. For me personally, another thing is myself, Knuckles, and a couple of other guys, we made up our own ops. I literally came up with one off the top of my head. Took me about 5 minutes to make up, and then we went and did it. And it was basically just a asset destruction mission. We went, grabbed an LT, got whatever intel from him, busted into one of the CQC radio stations, got information from one of the servers, blew the servers, and then went and did the rest of the mission of taking out the assets. Or in this case, it was cocaine storage. And then there was another one where we went to Agua Verde and basically did the same thing with ammo caches that were being distributed from Montoyac. You have a lot more felt freedom, at least in my opinion, with Wildlands than you do with Breakpoint. A lot of the things are so similar that it's not easy to come up with something unique and give it the feeling of it being unique, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. 100%. One of the things that I find interesting about Wildlands is we've covered this loads of times before, but as soon as you go into Wildlands, if you haven't played it for a while and you put it back in, the biggest difference for me is just always how that world just feels so much more alive. You can get in a vehicle, you can drive into the woods, and you'll see someone even in the woods sometimes on some of these smaller back roads. Little things like that, and that might seem like a nothing, but just small, tiny little things make that game so much more intriguing, so much more interesting. I also think, do you know what? Graphically, it's really. Some people say that Breakpoint is far superior graphically than Wildlands, and that's a fair point. But I really don't think they are that much apart graphically. I don't put Wildlands on and think, "Ooh, this looks terrible." I still think there's things in Wildlands that still look better than Breakpoint, like the water, for example. I still think looks better than
Nearly all the buildings.
Yes, nearly all the build. Well, obviously, a lot of that's to do with Breakpoint's kind of blandness for its building types are very
So
boring.
I think that has to do with that Bolivia was laser scanned. They went and scanned villages, cities, and buildings that were in Bolivia to use it. Breakpoint was just built from futuristic houses that from a 3D outline program, right? Like it's not real, but Bolivia is.
Well, part of Breakpoint was different areas were like copy paste, and then other areas like the city, obviously that was more, they focused more. But like when you get in the northern area of the map, it's all like copy and paste to the buildings. There was no uniqueness unless
Yeah.
it was a very specific area. Whereas Wildlands had a similar thing, but it was more the copy and paste buildings were obviously this is a Santa Blanca building or this is a Unidad building. Like those were copy and paste, but everything else, like you said, the villages and everything, they were like just laser scanned in. And so like when you went in certain places, it's like, oh wow, this is
Actually,
pretty
I
legit.
have something. I have something to caveat off that. When Tyrant and I were playing recently, we've been playing Fallen Ghost as well, which I think should have probably represented more Breakpoint's aspect. But there are compounds or layouts of fobs that are just copied from Wildlands into Breakpoint. There are like a few Unidad bases that I walked into and I knew the layout, even though I'd never been in that DLC, because I've played it in Breakpoint.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Fallen Ghost, like one of the first bases you go to for the Los, please pronounce that for me, Tyrant. What is it, Los?
Los Extranjeros.
Los
Yeah.
extranjeros.
So yeah, that first mission you go to when you rescue that CIA agent is the exact same layout of a wolf base in Breakpoint, like one of the mountainous regions.
It's very
Interesting.
similar, but I wouldn't call it exact.
But do you know what? Do you know what I loved about Wildlands is, and I don't know if anyone else wants to jump in on this, but the mission structure. The missions are so much more interesting than Breakpoint. When you play Breakpoint, you play if you were to start Breakpoint again from scratch, say tomorrow, I do think after say 10 missions in, you just feel like you're kind of doing the same thing over and over. Now, yes, there's a few repetitive missions in Wildlands, but overall the mission structure is very different. I mean, I've got a personal favorite, which I wonder if everyone remembers, and I think it was in Malka, which I always found interesting because Malka, I think, was rated three stars out of 5 for difficulty or skulls or whatever. And I found this mission really difficult to start with. I don't know why, because later on it seemed easy, but to start with, I just could not do it. And it's the one where you had to creep into the base. You couldn't get seen.
Oh, and steal the truck.
You had to steal the truck,
Yeah.
drive the truck out.
Yeah.
That
I
was
remember the
great.
first. Yeah, I remember the
Took me
first time.
40 tries to do.
I remember driving the truck to that guy, not understanding what I had to do next. I got out and I'm just hanging around, and then it's like, what's going on? Why is there a timer? What am I supposed? Oh,
Yeah.
fuck!
Yeah.
I'm supposed to drive the truck back, and then drive it back without being seen. And I tried. Right, okay. What about if I clear the base first? What if I just found it really difficult. And then, as you get better at the game and stuff like that, then now if you jump in and do it, it just seems really easy. But at when I first started it,
those fucking hills at like 90 miles an hour, swinging that
Yep.
fucking ass end of the truck over the cliff, just to have it keep going.
yeah. But does anyone else? What does everyone else think about like the mission structure side
Well,
of things? What
going
about like Sandy? You two all straight up.
Well, going according to that same mission, me and a couple buddies of mine from my old SOCOM clan, we did that. We played the game, and one of our guys was able to get in there, sneak that truck around, and then sneak it back, and then get out. And the rest of us was like, okay, you go do it. Because you're the only one that can do it.
Yeah.
My favorite part
Well,
about that
playing rock
mission,
paper scissors, and he just does it.
favorite part about that mission in particular isn't so much like the mechanic of it or going in and getting out. My favorite part is the conversation he has with the rebel.
I'm
where
trying to
either sitting
remember.
there-
What does he say?
He's sitting there going like, "Your English is as bad as your Spanish," and he's going like, "We filled this thing with plastic explosives, and our guys who handled the explosives were all handled or trained by old Soviet guys, And so Nomad's sitting there going like, Jesus Christ, why don't you drive it? No, fucking no, I'm not driving it. I was pissing myself just driving it here. You fucking have good luck there.
And that banter, we're not really going to talk about Breakpoint, but obviously we're going to make comparisons. But that banter is one of the major things that's missing in Breakpoint, isn't it?
Yeah.
That kind of those kind of conversations, whether
Well,
it's in a
well, I was
mission,
saying
whether it's with your teammates, it's just missing.
I've been saying that on the Discord tonight, that the comparison, like Wildlands felt like the team had been together for a while, whereas in Breakpoint, it doesn't seem like any of the 4 characters have worked with each other at all.
Well, they
Like-
weren't there at the beginning, that's why.
Well, yeah, you know,
they
what I mean?
they were never intended to be there. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. But at the same time, that's asking the devs to go back in and build this into the system and build a storyline or something to it. And it's all they were trying to do was just do what the community asked, was give me AI teammates. A lot of people weren't asking for backstory or anything. They're just like, we want our AI teammates back, and that's what the devs did. They said, okay, here you go, enjoy.
that one.
No,
I
that's-
would say
that's true.
I did like the banter in Wildlands a lot more. It just you felt like you were actually part of a team.
Oh yeah.
No, 100%. So anyone else got any things that really stick out to them in Wildlands that they
I've got
absolutely
one.
love about it? Go on.
I've got one. I got my fucking M16.
Do you know what? Actually, no. I will say
wait,
one
wait.
thing. I will say one thing. One of the things I liked about what they done with Wildlands was some of the wee Easter egg stuff. Like the Klaus Barbie mission. Well, not the mission, but where you got up to that area and you go to Klaus Barbie's house, and it tells you a backstory about it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
forgot
yeah,
about
yeah.
The actual real life intel that you got about the country and everything, the old school legends. Some of the legends were
Yeah.
pretty awesome if you ever read all
Dude,
those.
that old town just outside of the I don't remember which one it is, which base it is, but it's in Romano. Yeah, Romano.
Yeah.
And it's the old town where Butch Cassidy and Sundance had their gunfight in
Mhm.
against the Bolivian.
Nice.
So,
Do you know,
Or
Joel?
actually, up by the house, there's that curve. They say it's like the world's most dangerous curve, and if you
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
drive that thing fast,
Oh, the
you're
world's
going
most
off the
dangerous
side
road.
of it.
The world's most dangerous road. Yeah.
It's called the Death
Yeah.
Road in Wildlands.
Yeah.
What I
That's
like is if
no
you
way up
actually
in
go
the
down
north.
to the bottom, of that curve, you will actually see busted cars and corpses.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
true. That's true. So,
I'm
are
gonna have to
there
go down there now.
is there any other missions that anyone particularly enjoyed? So,
Well,
I
saw
liked one that was it. Go on.
I saw one, and it was weirdly enough. I think somebody else put it in the Discord, but I remember the mission that I think was in the very beginning where you had to use the drone to check out the guy who was having sex with a hooker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tino.
You'd
that's-
remember that one.
And somebody said they went and did that mission again, and instead of sending the drone in to see what they were doing, he put he got the explosive drone and took them out. Then he took a picture of them afterwards, and their head was in,
I stole a
Oh,
cat
was it
from
in
under
his
leg.
lap?
yeah.
Oh, that was a good mission, though. To be honest, one of my favourite missions, without a doubt, is El Cardinal, where you have to
Yeah.
Oh,
sneak
yeah.
into the church, take everybody out, and then get him out. And if you play that on the hardest difficulty setting,
Fun.
that
It
is
is
so
a
much fun.
pain.
Hold on.
Oh,
wait.
it is. But even when you're trying to get away and they've put all the roadblocks up and stuff, just as you think you've done it, it's hard work. That last bit. But obviously, if you do it on a harder difficulty setting, anyway.
So,
even
Bullet
the
Catcher.
last mission just before Sueño, where you had to get to his building, when you find out that the
Atari.
Oh,
the
Pakatari's
Pacatari is
fun.
not going to help you. Yeah, that one was a tough one too.
That's
Yeah.
hard.
If you didn't have a helicopter, you were in a fight.
So
Oh,
what
you were
about,
screwed.
Carl Bookhart?
Oh no,
Maybe
I've done
getting
that.
down
I've
there.
tried doing that with APCs. I've tried doing that with like fast trucks. You're not getting out of that. You're fighting your all tooth and nail to that building.
And then you had to
Although-
get to the building, and then if you were on the ground Vic, you had to fight your way up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and they kept coming. Like they keep coming. There's no holding ground. They just keep coming.
That is the only mission where you have all three factions bearing down on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like a
So-
genuine finale.
So Andy, what about the not Carbo Car, but one before that where you had to take out the training lieutenants in the training camp?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
See, do you know what? I actually found that really easy because I had my explosive
You can
drone
snipe
by
them.
that point.
Oh,
I just sent
You
my
can snipe
explosive
'em.
drone and blew them all up one by one.
Oh, okay. You mentioned explosive drone. I've got a funny deal for you. So, this was whenever I was in a Milsim server a while, like whenever Wildlands was still big. We had a guy with us, and we chose the mission where you took out what's his name? Bookhart, Carl Bookhart, and we told this guy, okay, you have to go into this cave. You have to do CQC. You have to, like, we didn't tell him all of that. That was what we were playing. You had to go into this cave and, take him out. But his only objective was take him out. So he's like, okay, I got you. Follow me. We go all the way to the back end where you exit out of that mine. He takes out his drone, flies it all the way back up, blows it up and kills Bookhart, looks at us and goes like, did it.
Done.
And we're like, no, wait a minute. That ain't right.
Do you know what was the mission where you had to go to it was like the hacienda, and you reached there, and when you got there, there was a dude in there who escaped on a motorbike through a
Yeah.
tunnel. Well,
Yeah.
I remember the first time I was doing
That
that,
was hard.
he escaped, and I had no idea at this
Where'd he
point.
go?
The first time I did it, I didn't even know that there was a tunnel. I didn't know to go down there. I didn't find the stairs. I was too busy having a firefight, and he got away. But then when you discover it, you can kind of look on the map and kind of follow roughly where he comes out. So the next time we did it, we just went to the little village that it comes out in, found the tunnel entrance, and just put some mines down. And we just attacked the building, didn't even bother going after him. And then 2 minutes later, they went, "Oh, he's dead."
Yeah.
That was the way to do it.
I mean, it does say, okay, you have to figure out how to do it. Didn't say you had to kind of cheat your way to it.
I don't think
that's what I.
This
cheating.
dude wants to leave
That's-
out of a magic secret tunnel. Fuck you. We'll man the entrance to it.
Right. I mean, they didn't say
That's
you
what I
couldn't
think
do that.
is best
Right.
about Wildlands. So Wildlands, and this is what I loved about it. It didn't matter if you were the casual player or the Milsim Light player, and I say Milsim Light because I'm going to be a little respectful to the guys that do Arma and Squad and all those games, because those are some pretty hardcore players. But
Yeah.
it didn't matter what spectrum you fell on. You could mold the game to your play style. You
Yeah.
didn't mold yourself to the game. The game molded to how you wanted to play. If you wanted to be a sniper, you could play the whole game as a sniper except for very few areas. If you want to be Rambo, you could be Rambo almost the whole thing except for a few areas. And that's what I think was the best part about Wildlands, because it was one of the first few games really where you truly decided how you engaged everything.
You
that's
decided you
a
wanted
really
to be
good
bald
point.
by pulling your hair out. You went and fought Predator.
Then you pulled
that's-
what was left out.
I mean,
hate it.
aside, I did not hate that mission only because
It was Predator.
it was that, and also, in my opinion, they did it very well to represent the first movie. That's the other reason.
I hated the music replaying over and over. That was really annoying.
Oh, that didn't
That's
bother
the movie.
me.
That's
Yeah,
the
I
movie.
don't
Loved
bother
it
me
when
at
that was
all.
playing. I just felt like I was in the movie at that point.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know.
All right. Did anyone else hate the Splinter Cell mission, but loved it and hated it?
Yes.
At the same
Yep.
time?
Yep.
You love to
Yeah.
hate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're what a ghost looked like.
Yeah, it was
God
it was
dang it.
fun, but if you had to try and get in there from the ground, it was a little tough. But
I
if
did
you took the helicopter and had one
Yep.
of your teammates jump out and then parachute it right to the door, boom, done.
Oh,
That was really fun
here's the
then.
issue. I was late to Wildlands by like 2.5 years, and I was a solo player until Breakpoint came out. So when this mission happened, I didn't have access to helicopters because of how low of a level I was. I had to
Oh,
walk
God.
in. It took me 23 tries to find the right way to get into that base. That was a right path for the guard positions to move in, and then it glitched, and then another 17 tries later, he's like glitching through the dang building. I was like, ah, God.
I know a really difficult mission, which was a real challenge if you had it on the hardest difficulty, and that was Snafu. And even the mission before that, where you
What was
had to
that?
go and steal the helicopter
Yeah, and fly through.
Oh,
um,
God,
Right,
yeah.
and fly
Ireland.
through that. That was the first part. Then you had to go to the
Oh,
train yard
yeah.
and get the intel from that guy, and then you had to go into the town, and you had to defend whilst he was disarming the bomb. If you do that on hard, that's a
That was
challenge.
difficult.
That was a
Yeah.
real challenge. And of
Here's
course,
how,
first few times you do it, you got no idea where you're taking the
Oh, and
taking
then you drive the bomb
the
off
truck
the cliff.
either.
That was
Yeah.
fun.
here's how late I was to Wildlands. I bought Wildlands a week before Breakpoint.
Whoa.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I was so late to Wildlands, I missed the alpha. I made it to the beta, but I made it to the.
I went back to Wildlands actually after I had played Breakpoint, and the funny story about that is I really didn't understand how really to play a Ghost Recon game because, as I've told you guys before, Wildlands was my first. After playing Breakpoint, I was like, okay, so I really need to commit to the bit, and I had a lot more fun.
That's fair enough. I mean, does anyone think it's more interesting
You know what? I'm
in
curious. So
Wildlands fighting a cartel as opposed to
I
Breakpoint
prefer
fighting?
the cartel.
What is it that you?
I would rather fight the Unidad in Breakpoint.
Yeah. Okay.
Y-
Wait. The Fallen Ghost DLC, even the game, like the DLC load up screen is the exact picture of Nomad hiding under the tree that was presented to us when Breakpoint was like announced to being released. The whole concept behind Fallen Ghost should have been Breakpoint.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
I
hell
thought-
yes.
I said this yesterday. I put up a photo. I think it was either this morning or yesterday, and it's actually Holt falling out the helicopter that's been hit.
Yeah.
In Fallen Ghosts. It's almost like they literally have carbon copied the whole start of that storyline.
But Fallen Ghosts, what I loved about Fallen Ghosts as well is that they created a really interesting atmosphere. Like it's always overcast, very dark, cloudy, it's raining
Rainy.
pretty much all the
Yep,
time.
foggy.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is just fantastic. That is amazing, that DLC. And it's really strange. You come across people all the time who go, yeah, I love Wildlands. I know some people that go, yeah, I love Wildlands. You go, oh, Fallen Ghosts. And they're like, oh, I've never bought it. You're like, oh my God, you're missing literally, I think it's one of the best parts of the game, really.
I just bought it.
Oh, it's amazing. It's so good. I
Bought
mean,
it 3 days ago.
that's another one. Play the last mission on the hardest
Yeah.
difficulty, and that is a serious challenge.
Yeah. What did
That's
it
what
take
one of
us, Andy? What it took us like 5 tries to even just get to the.
Yeah, we
get
did.
to the
We
bridge?
did that one, didn't we? You, me, and John Kay, and who else was on there? Was it UK Jedi? I can't remember. That was.
Yeah, I mean, it took us 5 times just to get to the bridge.
Yeah, we were doing that on the hardest one. That was difficult. It was difficult. I mean, once you start getting a bearing down and you start clearing the troops out a bit, it gets a bit easier. But that initial approach is
Yeah.
hard, and they are bombing the crap out of you with mortars and all the rest of it. And,
And the
you've
bad
got
part is you can't
helicopters.
even, and you're using the same mortars that they're shooting you with, trying to hit the one guy on the top of the bridge. And
Yeah, and
naturally,
he's-
you can't even get
no
up there.
spoilers. No spoilers. I haven't played it yet.
Oh,
Oh,
we're
oh,
just
It's
kind
not.
of giving you the hint of it, like, okay, you're gonna have
Oh,
a good
guys,
time.
I'm hoping
I
the
think-
Tyrant I can get through that.
I think
soon.
if we're going
Hey.
to talk about DLC for Wildlands, we need to talk about just how great Narco Road was.
Oh
haven't
God,
played
shut
that
up!
No, that's where
course
yeah,
you
the
would,
disappointment.
Sandy.
That's a disappointment for me.
I
I'll
haven't.
tell you
I
what.
haven't played
Tell you,
that yet.
tell you what
Oh,
was good
hold
though. Go on.
Let's actually talk about Narco Roads there for a second, because
Go
I
for
want
it.
to actually address the fact that the community did not like Narco Roads, and they instantly, on a dime, said, "All right, we're not gonna do it again." And then
But
they
they-
went with Fallen Ghost, and they made something great like Fallen Ghost.
But
Yep.
see, here's the thing. So I look back on this now.
Hang on. I'll let you finish.
I look back on this now, and they've took elements for both. They took elements for both when they created Breakpoint, and you can see that because Naka Road, you were a single player. You had an AI teammates, and then they took that. Then they took the Fall and Go storyline and kind of threw that together, and somehow managed to bring out the worst of both parts.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like it was mentioned earlier, the opening sequence of Fallen Ghost, your helicopter crashes. And I think the very first hut you come up to, you get attacked by two dudes you can't see because you don't know that they're running camouflage, like actual optical camouflage.
invisible
Optical camo and the ghillie suits.
Yeah.
But that's just like Breakpoint. When you come up to, I think, the second or third helicopter crash, you come up to wolves that says, "Don't engage these guys. They're, engage at your own peril." Well, Fallen Ghost, first dudes you come across are some dudes where it's like, whoa, I don't even know where these guys are. Because I remember when I first played Fallen Ghost and I got up to that hut and I got hit with that arrow, I was like, where is he? And I seriously, it took me just seeing one move real quick to actually go, okay, turn on thermals. Oh, there he is.
But do you know what was genius about Fallen Ghosts was that there's a mission in Fallen Ghosts which is in terms of mission design, it's so simplistic, but it's just epic. And it's the one you have to go and clear out a small little base to start with. It's not a big base. You get some intel or something, and it tells you to head towards a farm. And then on the way to the farm, you have to kind of go up this hillside, and then you have to go all the way down the hillside following this small track. And either side of this track is just, it's really overgrown of trees and all the rest of it. But it wants you to follow this track. Yeah, and it is full of all of them. Like there's jammers in there, there's the invisible guys in there. But you can't, if you rush it, if you try and run down that hill, you're dead instantly. You've got to really take your time. You've got guys hiding on your left, your right. Some of them try and flank you. There's snipers up high. And that is literally all you're doing is moving forward down this path. And it's you say that to people and they go, well, that sounds boring. But it is not. It's so much fun. It's such an excellent mission.
Going back to like that sort of aspect, going back to Breakpoint, there was a mission whenever Amber Ruin came out, and it was literally you went into a couple of breach and clear buildings, you hacked into a server, and then you had to go through a densely gassed forest area. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. Well, you couldn't see your buddy about 5 meters ahead of you, and you had to walk through this dense gas cloud, and there were wolves all around you. The game absolutely shines when it embraces what it was intended, what it was marketed to do.
Yeah.
And it's still the most memorable moment I will ever get out of Breakpoint. But it's literally something so simplistic of being absolutely surrounded. You have no idea where the people are that are going to kill you, and you have to do your best to pull 360 and scan your surroundings. One wrong step and you were screwed.
So now what would have made that even better?
Just walk down a path.
Yeah, but what would have made that even better is most of us have been on Gollum Island at least to attempt the raid at least once. Throw some mines out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that would have been perfect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like a minefield, and the only way to see them is thermals, or maybe.
No, I mean you're still in the raid. You could hear them. You can hear the beep beep.
Oh, really?
And as you got closer, it would get. But it was just the point. You couldn't run through there then, because now you got to just walk because you got the wolves out there looking for you. Plus, you going through a minefield.
And that plays with you mentally. That makes you like, oh crap, where do I step?
Right.
100%.
Let's take that into concept. Let's take that into concept. You're also fighting the clock because you only have so many filters and you are in gas.
Yep.
And you have a certain time limit to get to that base too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's
I
very
gotta
true.
say though, that gas filter thing was a little pushing it. It's like, okay, I get it. I get why you're doing it, but it's just kind of pushing it because that's not how filters work in general. But this is,
But
You don't take
And
your
that's
breath and
also if it was depending on the bioweapon Amber Ruin's meant to be, you'd need to cover more than just your face.
Oh yeah, you need
Yeah.
to be in like full mop gear, and how the rainbow guys didn't need to change their filters at all, but you did, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
your explanation doesn't make sense.
No,
Speaking of
that's
which, out of all of them in terms of kit for a bioweapon, I know it's Finka's job, but hers is probably the most believable.
Thatcher.
Well,
Thatcher
yeah,
was
too,
also
but I'm
another one that was
referring to like she is in full mop gear. She has like the weird.
No, so is
plastic
he. You don't
type
understand
shirt,
that.
yes.
That's what I'm getting at. He was also in full. That is
Yeah,
literally
everything was
why-
covered and sealed.
Oh,
That's why they have that
Technically,
uniform.
Thatcher, isn't he, though?
What?
Thatcher, isn't he, actually covered in CBRN gear, though? If you truly know the history of that suit, and
It's
It's not
technically
actually
not,
CBRN.
but because I know what suit you're referring to.
Isn't
It's
it in-
technically
in-
not,
in
but
Rainbow
it's more
Six-
sealed than anything else.
in Rainbow Six Siege. Some of the SAS guys have got Smoke's got a sealed suit, hasn't he?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But
The-
I'm not sure
the suit
Thatcher
that-
has.
the suit that they use is very reminiscent. It's obviously based on the Iranian embassy back in 1980, and although it looks like it's a CBRN suit underneath, if you ever look into it, all the guys done was they cut the CBRN suit, like the hoods off the CBRN suit, and just put it under the coveralls. So it never gave them any protection because it was too hot to run around in.
Okay,
So-
interesting.
Yeah. I'll
But
admit that
Smoke
suit sucks.
definitely looks like he's got.
Oh,
He definitely
on
looks
the-
like he's got a
On
full
the
suit
And
on.
on the topic
If-
back of the gas mask, could you imagine that the AI teammates had to fill up when you do, and they could possibly die from being exposed to that gas? And then
That
you had
would
to
have
worry
been
about
good.
getting
Yeah.
them to the filter on time as well.
That
But
would have
then
been
you're
really
back
cool.
over the semantics of the filter. But anyway,
Yeah, I want to talk about someone mentioned a little while ago about Unidad. What does everybody think of the
Fantastic.
system in Unidad? Should the walls have had it in Breakpoint? Because I think
hell
they should.
yeah.
and I
They
love
should.
that.
Oh
was
my
expecting it.
god.
I was expecting
Yeah.
that.
They never quit coming.
I
Okay,
think
all
they
right.
need
So
a
hold on.
refined version of it.
So in
yes, thank you.
Tyrant and I recently did a Fallen Ghost Eastern Precinct, like the end storyline mission of Eastern Precinct. At the end of that, we were chased for about 15-20 minutes in a road by two tailing vehicles that then rammed us, ruined our car, and then we were chased through a forest to a rebel site for another like 2.3 clicks or something, on foot by a helo and other ground forces. That right there was like almost an hour to hour and a half long engagement because of that. There were tears.
Yeah,
It
I-
wasn't that long, but
overall,
I've had one
definitely a good
before.
distance.
FOB Jaguar had an enormous firefight with Unidad, and they just literally, honestly, it felt like it went on for an hour. I just
Jaguar's my
couldn't.
favorite.
Yeah, they just did not leave us alone over the back of the base where the rail tracks are,
Yeah.
and they just kept coming and coming and coming, and it just never ended. But it was so much fun though, just trying to kind of survive, and you kept running out of ammo and picking up other weapons or running for the ammo building and stuff like that. It was just so genius. I don't know
I
why.
always quite liked it when you got onto like the 4-star rating, and you knew there was a point where you're going to have to try and break contact, and that then became harder than the actual firefight to
Oh
actually
god, yeah.
break contact.
Especially with the helicopters and everything chasing you.
Exactly.
I mean, just a 4-star Unidad. It seemed like they sent a battalion in after just 4 guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
The only
now-
thing they didn't send was an APC, so it wasn't completely the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
I mean, just the number of guys that were coming in just looking for you.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
So-
at one point, I can't remember the base, but I remember we were on the top of the hill at one point, and we had gotten up to the 4-star point. And when they finally got up on top of that hill, it must have been like 40 of them.
Oh, they sent
Right.
huge
Oh
numbers.
no, that
over here.
was actually a really interesting thing to see. We broke contact from Unidad from one of the bases in not Media Luna. What was the other big not Libertad?
Florida Oro.
Florida Oro.
Yeah.
we had, like he was saying, we crested over a hill and then we started to move on, and then somebody called out that we had like more of them coming up behind us, and they had set up like a decently spread out line, and they had all started like advancing. It was slowly and methodically, but they were advancing and actually scanning.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they
Looking
actually
around.
would flank. They would do actual maneuver on you.
Yeah.
The closest firefight I got in Breakpoint that reminded me of fighting Unidad was actually on Golem Island during one of the raids, and it was in Sector 2, right by one of the lava plant things, and where all the rocks are, and we got pinned down, and because vehicles kept driving by, just more and more wolves kept showing up. But that was the closest I've ever gotten to an actual big firefight in Breakpoint. Whereas in Wildlands, I've played it with guys where we reenacted Lone Survivor. We would get the 4 stars up, go up to the top of one hill, hold them off until they got up there, and then run downhill and see if we could survive.
Hmm.
And that's the interesting thing about Wildlands, isn't it? Is that you can
do
have
that.
big firefights, whereas in Breakpoint, like you said, apart from possibly on the raid, there isn't. You can't really have a massive firefight. Not really. Not in the same scale as
No.
as
I think
Wildlands.
the
Also,
only thing
players.
the only one that comes to mind to me for Breakpoint in that is the one in Amber Ruin where you get ambushed once you land the plane. That's
Yes.
That was,
Yeah.
yeah,
something
that was
Yeah, at
pretty
the
cool.
very
that was,
end.
yep, that was a
At
Yeah.
the
good one.
very end.
Yep.
and even then that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the very first mission in Amber Ruin kind of got you ready for it because you had to get that boat and then go past
Yeah, that was
the
a fun one.
bridge. Now
That
I'm
boat
thinking,
mission was so much fun.
yeah. Now
Did they
imagine
not
if the
do
rest
that
of
for
the
Wildlands as well though?
now
'Cause it
imagine
was-
if the rest of it was like that boat. Now that would have been sweet. You know, you'd had to steal a
Wildlands.
No.
helicopter
Did they not
or
steal that?
Imagine.
Wildlands had one of those.
Yeah, I was
Mhm.
going to say that.
Yeah.
Wildlands had pretty much that same mission.
Yeah, they did.
Uh,
Whenever you actually had to take a experimental boat, a prototype boat, out of
Yeah.
one of the dockyards.
right, but it didn't have
I
the
believe that was
landmines in the
El Rico.
water. It didn't have the explosion at
It
the
didn't
end.
have landmines in the water, but it did have an absolute crap ton of docks that could
Right.
stop you and impede your progress. You
Oh,
could
yeah,
literally
yeah.
beat yourself on one of those.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a couple
I
of them
mean,
where you had to slow down because you weren't making the turn through the docks.
yeah.
Mhm.
But I
And
mean,
while
there
you're
was
getting
no
by.
explosion at the end, you know, to say, okay, now you've cleared the area.
Oh, okay, well that's
Oh, so we got
theatrics.
chased by we got
Yeah.
chased by a helicopter on some of the times we did it. Like we'd have 2 or
Actually-
3 helicopters hovering us.
Here's one that I know you'll respect there, SOCOM buddy. Whenever you in Wildlands, there's that mission in Agua Verde. It's not in Agua Verde. You come in from Agua Verde in the lake. It's in Okoro, and you get to swim up to the docks. And once you get past these docks in this sniper tower, you go underneath this foundry where there's like a chemical runoff, and you go into that pipe, and then you have to go up and blow up the factory, and then you get back to the fucking dock and leave that way.
Yeah, I think I remember that one. Yeah, that one was fun.
Ooh, we gotta do that then, Tyron. I don't remember that mission.
But see,
Is
now,
there-
we haven't heard from Jeremy in a while because
I was
he's
about
been
to
doing
say.
he's been doing some wildland missions. So come on now, break it down to us there, Jeremy.
I'm not sure you want me to.
Jeremy, tell us what is it that you, because I know your opinions currently on Breakpoint, how disappointed you are with it. So what is it that you enjoy about Wildlands over Breakpoint? What
don't
do
get
you
me
think
wrong,
they did right?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I really enjoy Wildlands, but I don't have that same veneer over my eyes about it that everybody else seems to have. I still think it's a very flawed game. They left it in a very bad technical condition. We have still have lots and lots of issues, especially with multiplayer. Lots of people dropping out, lots of people falling through the world, things like that. So, you know, I hear people talk about Wildlands being so great, and I keep thinking to myself, but Wildlands really isn't that great. It's all right. It's good. It's a good game. It's not a great game.
I have a follow-up to that.
But the things I do like, and I agree with most people here, are the combat is far superior. Far superior. It's a strange one. The combat's far superior, but the gunplay is better in Breakpoint. I know it's a weird thing to say, but just the feeling and the intensity of combat in Wildlands is over the top versus Breakpoint. However, manipulating your rifle and
I agree with that.
doing certain manipulations and things like that are far better than Breakpoint. So it's kind of a weird statement to make. That's how I feel about it.
The gunsmith additions.
Well, I don't really care about the gunsmith. I use the same rifle all the time. I don't
Yeah.
play around to do Barbie doll stuff. I go in there play the game. But as far as the graphics go, I do agree that Breakpoint in most instances is far better than Wildlands. However, where it shines in Wildlands over Breakpoint, it really, really shines. Particularly, like Andy was saying, the water. I would love to have the same kind of firefights and the escalation of tension in Breakpoint that you get in Wildlands.
What about player movement and vehicle movement? Because in Wildlands, you can actually drive a car without sliding everywhere, and you can fly a helicopter that actually feels.
Yeah, but the player movement feels
semi-realistic.
better. It feels better in Breakpoint, in my opinion.
Okay, so here's the thing: the driving the cars, and this is the thing a lot of people forget. A lot of times when you're driving those cars, and you're like, I don't have control. Look at what you're driving and what you're driving it on, as well as pay attention to your speed. Because I guarantee you, if you're going 70 down a dirt road and you make a little turn to the left or right, you will lose control.
Yeah.
But in Wildlands, it didn't have that. Like, I felt the same control. The only time I felt off is if I was actually in legit mud, and then I slid a little. But for the most part, I didn't have that many issues driving around. At point, I had to pay attention to how I drove. What I will say, and this is the thing that I've been saying from the day Breakpoint came out, everyone that said Wildlands is better forgets Wildlands has had a ton of issues
And updates.
and like I remember they dropped one update and no one could play, and then everyone forgets the trouble that Wildlands went through. And if you're like someone in this group who mentioned earlier that they just recently got Wildlands and they didn't play it until like Breakpoint came out, you're going to think it's an awesome game, and it's a little bit easier to go. That you can see why people say Wildlands is better than Breakpoint in some areas. But if you played Wildlands from the beta till Breakpoint came out,
it was
No.
it was
Oh, yeah, I can believe that.
I think
I can believe
Year
that.
one
That's
was
any game.
absolutely.
it
I think
was-
we're seeing-
The
hold on.
game
Yeah.
was
The
on the
flying,
verge
the
of.
flying cars.
It was
I
horrible
remember
the
the
first
flying
year.
cars.
I
Hold
still
on.
see those.
Hold on, because we're seeing that right now with Breakpoint with people even in this Discord server of saying, "Hey, I just got the game. It's awesome," and then some of us
Yeah.
are like, "Hold
It's
on."
that
there."
mutation syndrome, isn't it?
No, I remember that guy that we talked to, and he's like, "Yeah, I just got it, and it looks great." And I'm like, "Yeah, be thankful you
Ooh.
didn't play it way back in the beta or
Right.
up till now."
Right, right.
Yeah.
well, I mean,
You
think
got-
about how many things we had to fight for to get into Wildlands.
Oh my god!
The
It
Cry
seems to be a
Combat
trait for
2
Ubisoft.
shirt alone was like
Yes.
pulling teeth from a
Wait,
pissed
what?
off bear.
Really?
The Cry Combat 2 shirt with the rolled
Yeah.
sleeves
Yeah.
took
Yeah, it looks
forever to get. Yeah, took forever to get.
No, the Cry Combat 2 shirt with the rolled up sleeves was literally one of, if not the last part of the content you could purchase. And you had to purchase it, but it was literally one of, if not the last content you got.
Yeah.
Same
Well, I
for the
was-
416, the H&K 416, the M110, rifles that we all love in
Mark 18.
Wildlands.
Oh, don't
Mark
forget the bullet
18.
drop when the 110 first came out. When the 110
Oh, yeah.
first came out, the bullet
whenever
drop
the
was
110 came out, that
horrible.
thing was terrible. Oh, it was bad. It was so bad. Dusty, Knuckles, I know you'll understand this one. Dusty didn't touch it.
Wait, which one?
The
The
M110.
110.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but you bring up an interesting point saying that though, because talking about some of the things that Wildlands does still do vastly better, and that is in terms of flying, but in terms of the shooting in the game, the distances that you can shoot and land shots.
Rendering.
I mean, Breakpoint would be an exponentially better game if you had a much better, distance to shoot, because the distance to shoot in that game is poor. Let's be honest. We've all touched on this before. It's bad, and in Wildlands, it is vastly superior. And it's sad to see Breakpoint at such a, it's so low. But can I just mention one other thing before you come in, Knuckles? Just what Hammer was talking about a second ago with the vehicles. Do you not think one of the interesting things is, both of these games are open world games, and yes, we know that one of them has martial law and all the rest of it in terms of what's going on the island. But the difference to me is in Wildlands, vehicles, whether they drove well or not, vehicles seemed very important. That in terms of where you could jump, the jump places were a lot less. Not with how many bivouacs has Breakpoint got? 111, is it? Something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's 111.
119.
119. Okay. That seems too many to me. I mean, yes, it's good that you can get around easy, but it has literally made vehicles completely null and void. You just don't use them.
Yeah.
Whereas in Wildlands, they were essential. There were places that you needed to get on the map, and the best way to go was use a vehicle. And there are a lot more vehicle-based missions. Follow this guy, do that. And vehicles do seem important. Even when you play Wildlands now, I still use vehicles. And there was nothing more fun than you needing a vehicle, needing to get away, and you could run out into the road, stop a car, or fire a few warning shots and steal the vehicle and drive off. That was just fun. It's one of those things that makes Wildlands more interesting than Breakpoint. You run out into a road in Breakpoint and you're just standing there staring and like,
You
I
might not
know
even
what
see
it
a
is.
vehicle.
exactly.
The only thing that I have to say to that is, and this is going to be it was one earliest complaint that I've ever had about Wildlands, is I felt like I played through it way too fast. I started to enjoy it a little bit more whenever I actually started taking it slow, and I didn't use a helicopter to get from one rally point to another rally point, or anything like that. The helicopter use was over the top, like it is in Breakpoint. However, the need for that helicopter use is almost, I feel like it's a more viable or more reasonable in Breakpoint instead of Wildlands, because again, you have all these different roads and they're all lively. But
It's the islands. It's the islands in Breakpoint, because you kind of get. Whereas in Wildlands, you could drive to.
It's not even just like the islands. It's just some of the mountaintops. Some of the mountaintops. I mean, there were some times where I just take. There would be some times where I took boats. I would actually literally circle around the island just to go up to like Gollum or one of the northern islands or something like that.
I think the difference is with Wildlands is that you know that you can start in the top right-hand corner of the map and drive to the bottom left-hand and drive.
Yes.
You can drive all the way around. There isn't a point. There isn't a region in the map that you can't get to. You know what I mean?
Except for Agua Verde.
Well,
You can
actually,
still
you
drive
can
through
still
that.
drive around
You
the
still can drive through that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it was a big
Andy
point.
hit on it. Andy hit on it about the bivouacs. So in Wildlands, and this is what I actually liked about Wildlands, is even though there was 4 to 5 safe houses almost per most of the provinces, the way they were spread apart forced you to go, okay, I'm not doing it. Like, if I want to walk, that's fine. But if I want to get this done in a timely manner, I need a vehicle. Whereas in Breakpoint, there's 100 something of those bivouacs, but if you look at how much space there is on that map compared to how much space there is, because the Wildlands map is spread out. It's a big square, and everything is covered in that whole entire square you have access to. Breakpoint isn't like that. It's more like an oval. And when you condense that down, then you start getting all those bivouacs. Like, there's some bivouacs that are almost right on top of each other, and it's like, okay.
No,
I mean, you could still instill your own. I mean, true enough, that means going back and restarting. But you could instill saying, okay, I can only use X many bivouacs per province.
One for region.
Right, or however many that you want to do it. I mean, you could say, okay, I want to use 5 per region. Then those are the only 5 that you can touch.
Oh yeah, when I play, what I usually do is I'll grab a bivouac that's close to like a small abandoned building. So when I go to the bivouac, I'll do what I need to at the bivouac, but I'll treat the small abandoned building as either a rally point or an Alamo position for whatever I'm doing, and then move out from there in that province.
So
I think what would have
Right.
been better is if they would have actually had like let's call it a usable, something that you would use in an area that would let you set up a bivouac, and which in turn would let you have your fire to do whatever you need, kind of like in Red Dead, or in some cases like a mod in Fallout 4. You could set up your camp, but you only had that one camp. And wherever you decided to set it up at, that's where you would save. That's where you would get your chow. That's where you would take a look at your weapons, examine that stuff, which is what I thought you would be able to do in the game in the first place.
That's
And
what
then
they made it sound like.
yeah,
And then have individual rally points in each province. But
I thought they would give you, when I first saw the game, I thought when they talked about bivouacs for the first time, I thought that they would give you an X number of bivouacs that you got to choose where they were going to go. And so you could set up, say, 10, 20 or whatever.
well,
And
bivouacs
once you'd
meant to
set,
be temporary.
yeah, what I
Yeah.
mean is that you had 20, so you could take them down and then put them up wherever you wanted, as opposed to
Okay.
you find them, they're always there, and now you've got over 100, which is way too many. And coming back to what Hammer was saying a minute ago, I think there's some of the regions on Wildlands that have only actually got, I think it's only actually, some of them only got 3
Yeah.
safe houses, as little as 3.
Yeah, depending on the
Um,
size of the province. Yeah.
and what's
Yeah.
great about that is if you get hurt or shot down or your vehicle's damaged, you have to walk however so many clicks to get to a road to get a vehicle.
You don't have to walk. You can still fast
But you
travel
can
to whatever
spawn,
bivouac.
but that you can spawn.
Yeah,
but if
you can
wanna
also
force
spawn
yourself-
vehicles, but I mean,
Yeah.
like, but now you're talking about semantics again. You're talking about forcing yourself to do it. If
No,
we're
let's say
gonna be
you're
honest
running
with
low,
ourselves,
you're low level. The low level
Yeah.
people who don't have access to that to spawn a vehicle. who don't-
okay,
who
so
don't- who
you
can't
have
spawn.
you have rally points that you can fast travel to. You can fast travel to them. Heck, in ghost mode, you could literally fast travel to every single one of them. They're all there, highlighted for you to use before you ever set foot on any place near them on the map. Whereas in the original, like in the story, the normal campaign,
You had to
you
find them.
had to find them.
Yeah.
Well, let's
But
discuss.
they were
Let's
still there to
discuss. Let's discuss ghost mode for a second. So, what did everyone's? What's everyone's
Okay.
take on ghost mode? I got about halfway through, and I thought I was doing really well. And I thought, do you know what? This isn't as hard as I think it is. And I think
Oh.
I've said this on a previous podcast. And I was in a firefight, and I needed to run away, and I ran into the road, and I got hit by an old lady in a car, and she killed me. And
Yeah.
The old lady.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
literally an old lady in a car and ended my ghost mode, and I couldn't be bothered to do it again. So I only got halfway through. How did everyone else find it?
I
So
think
this goes with what I was saying earlier about Wildlands having its own bugs and problems. When Ghost Mode first came out, I don't know how many people got furious because they were losing 5-10 characters starting out because there were so many issues with Ghost Mode. I didn't mind the permanent death thing. It definitely makes you take pause in what you're doing. But I still think like if you fully cleared a province, I think your character should at least been saved there. That's
Well,
just
the
that
province
was
stays
my
cleared.
what I mean is like you got all the intel, you did all the faction missions, you did all the actual missions there, and then once you fully cleared that province, because in Wildlands to fully clear it, you have to go down and find all the weapon parts, all the intel pieces, everything, and then that province is actually considered clear. That's how you got the 2 different endings of Wildlands, and it's kind of crazy.
Well, the problem with ghost
No,
mode, the problem with ghost mode is that it relies on the game to be stable in the first place.
You're breaking up.
Okay.
Go ahead
Oh,
and start over.
The problem with ghost mode is that it requires the game to run stably in the first place. I
Yeah.
tried it 5, 6,
Oh,
I think
totally.
maybe 7 times, and got pretty far, and all of a sudden I fell through the world dead, and I was done.
that's awful.
Neither the Ghost Recon,
Yeah.
modern Ghost Recon games are in any condition right now to have any kind of permadeath without pissing somebody off, because there are so many technical glitches that play against you. You die. It's hard enough to swallow when you die because you did something stupid, but to die because the developer did something stupid is even harder to take.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah,
mean,
that one's
I mean, I didn't play much of Ghost Mode, but I did play it to just to experience it. But I played more tier mode.
Yeah.
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 See,
Oh, tier mode was fun.
I could see
I
that
did-
being in Motherland.
I did see. Whenever I played Ghost Mode's probably my favorite thing to play this on. And I've died. I've lost count of how many characters. I don't mind the permadeath. I actually embrace it, and I'm gonna be honest. If somebody came up to me and was complaining, "Oh, I don't think it should have that," I'm gonna tell them to shut the fuck up because they're wrong. I like that. It definitely makes people. I'm gonna go back to what Jeremy said because he sat there and said something about the modern Ghost Recons. Whenever I have to slow down and actually take my time, it reminds me of those older Ghost Recons. And where there wasn't exactly a permadeath because you could always get more soldiers, none of those soldiers were ever the same. And those specialists from those older games, if you lost one of them, they were gone. You
Mhm.
never
Yeah.
got them back. And that's why I like it. Like whenever you sat there and ran out into a road and got hit by a little old lady, I've had that happen to me countless times. But it also made me sit there and learn, don't be an idiot. Look both ways before crossing the street. Listen to your mom.
Yeah.
Fucking idiot.
So
I'd sit there and literally just run up, double check really quick. If there's one person coming, either tube them or fucking wait. One of the two.
I
Or
want
you
to
had a
talk about
convoy.
something. Oh yeah, the convoys in
Oh.
Wildlands are vastly superior to Breakpoint's
Yeah.
convoys.
Yes.
They were fun. I used to enjoy sometimes just jumping on for an hour or two and hitting
Chase.
convoy after convoy.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Tyrant,
Chasing
Tyrant,
convoys.
you want to speak about our
Except
little
that
convoy thing?
was well, I'm gonna speak about it in a negative way because that's also another big thing. They're predictable. And you could farm that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you could farm it. Yeah, admittedly,
cut
but
out.
they,
He was- he
they,
was
yeah, I think
mentioning-
he cut out. Yeah, but I want to talk about something else. So I want to talk about rebel support. So
Ooh.
rebel
Mhm.
support in Wildlands is something that gets brought up a lot by people saying that they wish something like that existed in Breakpoint. Now, I enjoyed the rebel support. It was interesting. It was fun. But do you think it made Wildlands too easy? Do you think, because sometimes you could use a lot of options to bring loads of guys in with you to mortar the crap out of a base first or whatever it was? It gave you quite a few options to, I mean, what used to really make me laugh, and I know this, a lot of people that I know, but for example, Bacon Soldier's always saying that he wishes that you could call in vehicles like in Wildlands as opposed to only at bivouacs like in Breakpoint. And I can see why he says that, but at the same time, it is kind of crazy that you could just pull in like the private jet, for example, and you'd be standing in this tiny little street, and this private jet would just appear next to you, and there was no way you could fly this thing out of there. It was impossible
Yeah.
without
Oh, yeah.
ripping the wings off. It was kind of, or it would be the other way round, where you would go, right, I need a helicopter because I'm in this ravine, and you'd call the helicopter in, and you'd be like, okay, where the fuck is it? And then you'd look on the map, and it's like at the top of the ravine,
Yeah.
the bit that you can't get to, and you're like,
It's
oh, well
500
done.
meters away.
Yeah,
You-
it
you
was
can also
very,
predict
very
some of the
random
spawn points.
sometimes.
Well,
Yeah, you
after a
can.
while, you can predict it. Yeah.
So what do
Um,
people think of Rebel support? Do
I
you
think
think
I
it was
like-
over the top? Too much?
No. Yes and no.
I
So
would
think it
say-
depends on the person.
I would
I
say
think it was user
even.
preference.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
I
really
would
is
say it was
Yeah.
even because if you wanted to, you could use them as a diversion / help.
Yeah.
So because good example, Unidad base. Now all of a sudden you need some help just so you can get away, or you need to get in this base and you need to sneak around. So you send the rebel up there. Hey, make some noise and let me sneak in and continue the mission that I have to sneak in for anyway. So
The only issue that I have with that is like the diversion one is the one that I primarily used. Whenever I actually called them for like gun for hire support, they would follow me around. They would get into healers, they would get into trucks, and they would keep following me around. And then they would openly engage everything. So it wasn't as great as At least in my opinion, it's not as great as what people make it out to be.
I would say for me, the only thing that let the Rebel support down is what Andy said about just being able to like if they changed that so that if you weren't an airfield, if you could only like get planes in if you were at an airfield, it would have probably been a bit better. But I think everything else on the Rebel support was probably a bit right. I like the fact that you could call in the mortar team.
Yeah, definitely
The only bad part about the mortar team, the only bad part about the mortar team is it would sometimes just randomly place the actual mortar team. Now, if they was always in the same spot, okay, cool. But you could be on one side. It depends on where you shot on the base or location that you were shooting. They were always closest to that, which is cool, fine and dandy. But if they're gonna shoot, if you're gonna have
for
a mortar,
visualization, they shouldn't be anywhere near you when they're firing those mortars. Honestly,
right?
Okay. Here's a good one. I'll let you continue. Here's a good one. I've had to go off of what you're saying. Just to give an example, I had a mortar. It wasn't even a mortar team. It was just a random mortar. It was in a base. It was in the same base that I was calling the fire mission on, and that's when that's where I spawned.
Yeah.
Just one simple mortar fired 3 shots out of a tube. Nobody was there in the same base in front of like 3 cartel guys.
Yeah. I mean,
that's like your AI teammates. They could walk right past them, and unless it actually blocked the path that the enemy NPC was walking, they didn't detect them. But my issue is sometimes the diversions, I don't know if it was a glitch or not, but sometimes if you did the diversion, it wouldn't be faction warfare. They'd still be looking for you. And that was one of the only issues. And I'm not talking about guns for fire. I'm actually talking about diversion.
Did anyone try the Predator mission and just get everyone on the team to bring in guns for hire?
Yeah.
I did.
Send like a whole army of them in there with you.
I did. I used that as an advantage.
I think the
time.
concept
I
of the
used them
Rebel-
as a diversion to draw the Predator out and then took him out.
Yeah, me too.
So
I mean,
think the
even with the one or two times that I finally did kill them before they finally got rid of it, I did use everybody possible before I went in there. And yes, it helped me as far as okay, the Predator is actually killing them before they start killing after my team, and me and my team was doing all the possible damage to the Predator, and then I finally got him. But by that point, it's just you and your team.
So I think the concept of the Rebel assistants that you could call in or use was great. Just the delivery of how they did it was not. Like you guys were saying, you had issues of where they were shooting stuff, where they're spawning in, or just spawning in and like off a car that drives by. You're trying to do a base stealthily, and then they attack Unidad, making the whole base alert. So the concept was good, just the delivery on it was not great.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I want to hit on something really quickly. So someone was talking about movement earlier. One of the things that I like about Wildlands in terms of its movement is movement from the prone position. So when you lay down in Wildlands, if you want to move forward, you move forward. If you want to move backwards, he moves backwards. Whereas in Breakpoint, you have to do that kind of, you can move left to right. Whereas in Breakpoint, you have to do that kind of follow the leader type thing where you have to kind of keep turning round to get straight, if you know what I mean. And it can, sometimes I find that a bit frustrating because that's not really real life, is it? You wouldn't move like that if you were laying on the ground. If you needed to move back, you would move your body along and move back. You wouldn't suddenly go, oh, I need to move back. I know, so I have to go in a full circle to get myself back in position, and it's really weird.
It's that fact that you're taking your eyes off your target effectively. You're taking your eyes off the threat.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, also, and this is seeing as I've actually had to crawl around in the mud before doing stuff. The thing about backing up when you're laying prone, you move so much slower than you actually realize.
Oh yeah,
So,
I mean, it's a definite.
I mean, I get it's a game, and that's what people are wanting. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but I guarantee you, whoever was talking to the devs about this probably said you're not going to do that if you're wanting to move back. It probably got misunderstood in translation of what they were trying to say. Was if you're wanting to move back prone, you're just going to turn around.
Yeah, but
What?
see, in Breakpoint, you can't just move left and right like in Wildlands while you're prone.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
'Cause,
get
I mean,
that.
because
I'm
in
just,
real life, if you just need to move a little bit to the right, you just move a little bit to the right. In
yeah.
Breakpoint, you want to move a little bit to the right, you got to go in this complete circle and hope that you lined up that little bit to the right.
Oh no, I
I-
agree with
I
you.
would
I'm
like
just
to-
saying.
Yeah, I
think
don't
they
think
got
either
lost in
games get it
translation
right.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think either games get it right. You know, I've done a lot of tactical training myself, and it's hard as hell when you're laying prone with all that kit on, just getting and moving around from one position to the next. It's a real bitch.
Yeah, it's,
You use your legs
Yeah.
more than you use anything else in order to spin yourself
Mhm.
around and things like that. And neither of those games get that right. And your kit really becomes a real impediment when you're prone.
Oh yeah.
What does
Not to
everybody
mention
think?
aiming down sights.
Say that again.
Say that again.
Sometimes aiming down sights as well. I mean, obviously from my experience, it's unless you're on a flat range, actually being able to see the enemy sometimes in the prone position with your helmet on and all your gear becomes very hard.
That's why, like most actual operators, they don't go prone unless they absolutely have to.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
because
either that or
even
they
in real
go
life,
either that or they use urban prone techniques. So
yeah.
I mean, even then, even if you have a sniper out in the field, he's gonna naturally dig himself in, and then he's gonna use his equipment as his barrier or whatever. But he's not laying on his gear, like his Molly gear at all.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of things that they could have had issues with it. Just wearing the suits, moving around, they might not have been able to do it right. Who knows?
Yeah.
I do agree there are certain things Wildlands got right on movement, but there's other things I think Breakpoint did an amazing job at. The one thing I was disappointed about Breakpoint when you brought up water, Andy, was in Breakpoint's beta test, the very first closed one. If you had mud on you and you ran into the water, you would see it dissolve like in real life. Like if you ran through water that nothing had tricked through, and you ran through it, you would see it actually like
I don't
kick
remember
up the
that.
mud in the water.
Mm.
So that's
I
in my opinion.
didn't notice it until like one of the times I was like really going slow to just write up all the good and bad of the test. And I saw that and I thought that was amazing. And then when the full game came out, it was gone. I was like, whoever took that out is an idiot because it just made the water come so much more alive.
But do you not remember as well, early on in Breakpoint's life, they sped up the animations as well? So people
Which
were
animations?
complaining. Most of the movement animations, people were. I don't know if it was
mag changes they were complaining about,
Yeah.
switching positions they were complaining, and I was
Yeah.
like, go put
it
all
was
that stuff
too
on and
slow,
do that.
apparently.
Everything in Breakpoint is administrative. Everything.
It was
Because
like
the knife kills in Breakpoint could be a little bit faster.
everything else, like
Just a little bit, huh?
everything else, just simple
Just
things
a
like
little bit.
just
a little
simple
bit.
things like
I
going
think
from
they're
the
way
prone
too
to the new line
theatric.
to standing was apparently too slow.
Yeah, I remember those
Wow.
arguments.
Yeah, it's very strange. So, what's everyone's opinion on the side missions in Wildlands? Because obviously they were very repetitive. That where you had to kind of destroy the tower and then get to the next one, all those type of things, or the radio. Did you enjoy them? Did people like those? Did you find them boring? What did you like them?
The shut off the radio
favorite was
towers
the
were
radio,
annoying.
'cause I like violence. That was my favorite.
Which one was your favorite?
The radios, definitely the radio ones, because I'll make it no secret. When I play a shooter, I like very violent moments. So that's why one of my favorite levels from another game series that's very violent. We're not talking about it right now, so we're not gonna worry about it. But yeah, in Wildlands, definitely the radio ones, and also probably the radio towers where you need to go in and get the info.
Yeah, they're
I like
great.
those two.
No, they were really good. Where you could breach.
Yep.
Yeah,
And C4 actually, had a lot of explosive kick. Not that it doesn't in Breakpoint. I liked that because anyone who
C4
talks
didn't
about
just
it,
have explosive kick. C4 had a nuclear fucking reactor. I could set that bitch fucking on a wall, and then the helicopter 25 meters back would get destroyed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to really think about that sometimes if that was going to be your exfil route. Like,
Yeah, I made that mistake once. I'm a little bit ashamed to admit. I was like, oh, it's this far back would be good. No.
No, I had a fucking helo nowhere near the fucking blast radius. Set that C4 off, and I watched that thing flip over like it just got hit by a truck.
Yeah, kind of like driving 25 meters from a mine and it blows you up.
Yeah.
Yes, that's really true.
Most of the Rebel missions were fun. The only one I didn't like, and I thought was beyond repetitive, was turn off this tower, turn off that tower. It's like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because that was the one.
Yeah, you
normally
almost
where you had
needed
to have a
to-
chopper.
You needed to have almost 2 human players to do it as well.
if you didn't have a helicopter, you did, because usually driving there was just a pain. But to piggyback off the radio one where you had to defend it, I love those, except for when they were like in dead center of towns. It's like, okay, watch your shots, because this, the civilian crowd, they just cower in place, and Santa Blanca's just rolling up there, and it's like you're trading shots, and they're coming from different directions. What was great about it was you could call in a diversion team and set them in one place that you knew that the ground guys were going to come through, or if cars were coming, you could set mines and all that. That's what made those fun. What I didn't understand is you had the breach missions on the Rebel factions and Wildlands, but for some reason that didn't carry over to Breakpoint, and I know everyone loved the breach things.
Mm-hmm.
Except for there was no real replay factor unless you were playing with others who hadn't done it yet. And that was the only downside of those.
That's very true. What I found interesting is like the defend the radio is when you would put the mines down, and as you were saying about civilians, and you'd have it all set up, you'd set the radio off, and then the first car that drove along was a civilian car and drove straight over your mine, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
How convenient was it that when Sam Fisher came, he had this magical mind that automatically knew who was enemy and not?
That's very true.
The ones that I liked was the tower ones where you had to protect the tower, and Fallen Ghost had that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes, they were good.
Yeah.
Actually,
and the weird thing about it is I think those were almost 5-minute protections.
Yeah, between 3
they
and
were.
5 minutes.
They were.
Yeah.
Those were
The ones
almost
that I
5
liked,
minutes.
the ones that I liked were the headhunter ones, or the hit missions, where you went and talked to a rebel leader. He gave you a bunch of photographs that gave you a basic description on what your target was, or what they were wearing, and what they were near.
Yeah.
And you had to go throughout the entire city, village, or whatever, and try and find it.
They were good. They were really good, actually. What did anyone play any of the community missions? The community missions on Wildlands, so like LTO and the
yes.
Yeti and stuff like that.
They still got
LTO
'em.
was insane.
LTO was actually LTO was so hard, and the bit where you had to try and be near the candle or something and hear the noise in the graveyard. I was in that graveyard for
thing
about
was
an hour.
I remember when I first played LTO, that thing was creepy. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
all right. Because when you had to go out on the cave system.
What, devil or something?
What I liked about it was the fact that it also kind of taught you a little something about culture there, about LTO himself.
Yeah.
And the belief behind him, and why Santa Blanca was using it.
Oh, yeah. And then when you go to face him, there's like 40 plus dudes there.
All in
Yeah,
red
a massive
paint,
group, wasn't
fucking-
there? Huge group.
Yeah.
My favorite
remember the-
thing
Yeah.
was just taking that, just looking at the nice little bowl, and having LTO raising his hands up and just going like, "Okay, mortar fire." Splash around. You think you're all big and bad, Mr. Devil Man?
Yeah, no, that's true. The Yeti one was good as well, to be fair. That was
I
quite a
like
good.
the Yeti one.
Yeah,
That
I
was
didn't
That
get
was
to
the only
play
one that I was
one.
actually able to do, because sadly most of these were before my time.
You
Yeah,
can
and then
still do most of them. You just have to reset
You can
them.
still do LTO. You can still do
Yeah.
LTO.
Yeah, but you can't do Yeti.
Yeah,
No,
the
you can
Yeti
still do
one.
Yeti.
I did
'Cause-
the Yeti
Can it?
well, not
You-
Yeah.
recently, but
I
a
tried
little bit
to-
while back.
Yeah, you can do the Yeti. We did it the other night.
How do you bring it up?
You have to
So
restart
you need to go
the original
to,
steps.
I forget the province.
Yeah, you go back to the original steps.
Yeah, the anal part is you have to find that damn rock.
Yeah.
Because I tried to
It's just
do
like
it and I couldn't get it. Because I even went to the first site
Yeah,
where
I joined
where
someone
the- where
else's
the-
game and they were doing it, so I didn't get to see how it was done. But I know you can do it.
but
I
I went
know
to
I've
the
come
very
across a
first
rock
one where you
before
had
and
to
I've
find the
restarted,
hieroglyphic
so.
thing.
Yeah, so
you can go up to the rock. You can cut through all of the rest of that stuff. Go straight to that bloody rock.
Yeah, the one with the
Examine
handprint.
it. Yeah, the one
Yeah.
with the handprint. And he'll spawn up in one of the mountain areas over there and try to shoot at you with a fucking 50 cal.
Yeah.
Bastard.
And if you don't move fast enough, he will nail you.
Yeah.
So, what did people think of? What did people think of El Sueño as like the big villain? Did you think he worked? Would you like to see him again, or you're not
I
that fast?
do not want to see him again. I think he
he
worked perfectly for what he was there to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree
I
with
think
that.
for
I think
Wildlands, he
worked
was a
real
great
well.
bad guy, and that's it.
Yeah.
Don't need to see him again.
I don't think bringing them back would benefit the franchise. I think
agree.
it would be a regression.
I agree. I think he
Yeah, I
was
think
a
think
great,
he's
intimidating, and
done and
imposing
did.
villain, which we don't really get.
I know
in
some
Breakpoint.
people want to use this backstory thing with him, and it's like, no. You can just find another cartel boss that took up similar traits but has their own eccentric tendencies. You don't need El Sueño.
Well, let's take a look at like Far Cry. Do you want to know how many people would absolutely kill to have another person like Vaz?
Me.
Yeah, exactly. Vaz was awesome, but he was perfect for that game. And he wasn't even the main villain of that game.
For some fucking reason.
No,
Even
I
he-
can understand that, but that was the thing we've talked about on other podcasts before. That what makes Wildlands, another reason that makes Wildlands stand out for me above Breakpoint, is that the villains were just much more interesting. They had
They were
characters.
believable.
They were believable. They were characters. They had interesting flaws and interesting things about their personality. They weren't all just generic. Whereas in Breakpoint, they feel very generic. Everything in Breakpoint feels clinical,
But
even the
Well,
people.
they're also a lie. Every villain, every wolf in there, every wolf commander is a lie. They're not ex-ghost. Maybe one or two out of the group, other than Walker, is an ex-ghost. Every
So
other one of them was brought in.
So in Breakpoint, the 4 main ones that roll with Walker are the ex-Ghost. Everyone else is just prior military of some sort.
No,
Except
only
for
3
this-
of them. Only
Oh,
3
3.
of the 4.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
And
'cause
then obviously I'd help. But all I would say on that is the problem with Walker that I had was that he was too relatable. You know what I mean? As an for an enemy, for a bad guy, I want him to feel truly bad. I didn't want to be able to sympathise with his cause. You didn't do that well, Svenio. Where you did with Walker.
Do you not think that's just modern storytelling, though? They seem to do this with everything.
I actually like that he was relatable. I actually like that he had a good cause in his mind. That I don't like the whole white and black shirt, old Western bad guy, good versus evil. I want that to be as muddied as humanly possible to actually cause like some thought process behind it and actually get into like, would that be me? If I was in the same position that he was, would that, would my morals fall in that place?
So the add-on to that I had to do with this was, if you look at Walker for Wildlands and Walker for Breakpoint, I don't know. I didn't understand how he went for. He wanted to in Wildlands. He wanted to pretty much track down anybody involved with Skell and kill them because they got his team killed. To then him being a consultant for Skell.
That's the major complaint that I have, is that it didn't go far enough.
I don't necessarily. Sorry.
Into it. They should
I
have
was gonna
kept
say
giving you
that's
little
if they
hints
do
of like
another
not so
game.
much these flashbacks, but
That's why an idea for another game would be the bridge. Like what truly drove Walker. I mean, we get the flashbacks, but then there's what he did. I think it was what was it, Mexico or something else. It's like
Sudan.
what all drove him down this path.
Sudan and Afghanistan apparently around about 2023 of the
Yeah.
points and the if you can find them in the storyline where he finally got threaders with the government and the
Well,
way
yeah,
that
but
they
there
were
was
doing
something
things.
he did with Stone before as well, and that's what I was talking
Oh,
about.
with the
Like
rec
what really
teams.
drove. Yeah.
Now they could have him go back to Afghanistan in 2023 to get back all the gear that they left behind.
hey,
It would work as a really good storyline, you've got to say.
I mean,
Yeah.
if they were to
And
bring out a new,
in my opinion, it was
You know what, if-
explained pretty.
if they brought out a new version of Ghost Recon, maybe having Walker's side and in between Wildlands and Breakpoint, and I think a couple of us have come up with the idea of it, but having Walker's side of the story on why and like we're trying to figure out what happened.
See,
Or
can I
maybe
be
being
honest
one
with
of
you?
Walker's ghost. Like
I just-
Walker's your commander, and you're just seeing his progression. You know, you're
I-
not
I-
necessarily having to play as
Or
Walker,
his
but
or his decline to
Yeah.
why
Can
he
you imagine-
left the Ghost.
Can you
I don't want to
imagine-
see. I don't want to see Walker again. I really don't in a game. I don't think he was an interesting character. I think he was boring.
I think
I-
that's
I
part of the
mean-
problem though. What if, just for a second, what if at the very start of Breakpoint, instead of just going straight into that, can you imagine if you had a prelude where you actually played a couple of missions as Walker to get in that mindset of him being screwed up?
That
That
would
would
have
have
been
been.
nice.
Yeah,
I
that would
don't
have been good.
know. I don't know if I want to play as Walker. I more. It's Red Dead had a good story with it where you played the third person looking in. You were involved in it, but you weren't the main contributor to someone's psyche. The things that happened were being done in front of you, and you were left powerless to like stop it. That's
Yeah.
something that I kind of want to see with that is say like back in Wildlands, he mentioned that he had 2 kids, and then he looked straight at Nomad and said, "What about your daughters? They know about your kids." You know,
Yeah.
something along that line. That finally, because again, he had a wife, he had children, and then he just threw it all away, and we have no idea why.
What I'd like to see is rather than see him be like this kind of sympathetic side, I would prefer to see a villain who you actually see them justify why they're making the decisions they're making, whether you agree with the decisions or you completely disagree with the decisions. Because let's face it, every villain that's ever existed, real life or otherwise, is supposed to. The reason why they're doing it is because they feel that most of the time it's not because they think they're being a villain.
They
It's
think they're
because
trying to do good.
yeah, they are thinking that what they are doing is the correct thing to do. And I'd much rather see a narrative where that is pushed, that person, as evil as they may be being, believes that they are doing the right thing, as opposed to seeing like, oh, poor him, and oh, try and get sympathy. I'd still want to see a proper good villain that you can kind of hate, but see that their reasoning behind it, why they're doing what they're doing.
That's
You mean
really-
like the Joker movie?
Just because you don't have to be sympathetic to somebody to relate to them, which is again basically what we're all kind of saying here is we want something that shows what his decisions were to drive him to this point. We may not like it, and we hate what he's doing. We hate the end result of what happened, and we hate him for it, or we hate the actions that he took.
But that's where I
The
think he
Black
differs with Sueño. So if you look at Sueño, yeah, he was an evil guy, but at the same time, they were putting money into, if I remember correctly, they were like building schools and, they were putting money back into certain parts of the economy.
well, yeah, because
Yeah,
he was
but
buying the
that's-
country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's literally PR stunts, though.
Yeah, but
At
see,
the end of the
here's another
he's a
thing about
businessman.
Sueño. Here's another thing about the whole Sueño thing. You had to go chase him down, but you didn't get to shoot him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually just about to comment on that. Every other boss you either talked to, did something with, chased something. Sueño, once you get to him, it's a cutscene. And depending on which ending you get, Bowman either shoots him, spoiler alert, or he goes and lives off in Florida for a while.
Right. But you never got to shoot him, even though you hated him the entire game. But you got to shoot all the other bosses.
How many bosses
or
did you actually kill? And
Loads.
Wildlands,
Oh, you killed shit.
I
What was
feel-
it? About 20 bosses in that thing?
I feel
Oh,
like
more
you
than that.
capture- I feel
More
like you
than that.
capture a lot more. Like, I feel like going back, thinking through it now, I feel like I captured and handed over a lot more than I killed.
Well, the very
let
first
me
two you
see
come
here.
across, you kill.
I mean, there wasn't. I mean, there were a lot of them where you did have to take in, and Bowman had to find out the information.
Take
But-
in,
Whether or
kill,
not they survived.
kill.
Right. Whether that C4 on the outside of the building stayed there. or
So
not.
with security alone, not counting El Comandante, it is a 50-50 split on capture and kill. If you count Yuri and El Polito as one target. Because you have El Pozolero that you captured, General Barrow that you converted, Yuri and El Polito you killed, Carl Bookhart you killed, La Plaga you killed, El Muro you captured. Same thing with, actually, the funny thing is you didn't even do anything with DJ Perico. You just knocked his ass out.
Mhm.
Basantero you captured. Carzita, you interrogated and then left him to his own devices. The entire influence division, aside from Ramon Feliz, it was left alive.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. It's,
Was because Santa Blanca killed him. So,
Yeah, I know.
but-
That's what I'm saying. Other than Ramon Feliz, who was DOA once you got to him, everybody
that-
else lived.
speaking of which, that's another thing. The very first province you get to in Wildlands, I thought was amazing, because just like going, what was it, Kata, that one town you go to that's just in flames. Like
Yeah.
just going in there.
Colta.
Yeah, Colta. Just going in there and seeing the destruction done to it almost pulls you in as a player. Like, okay, these guys got to die. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
your very
I
first
agree.
mission
And I think-
is
and I think that's what-
rescuing the-
And I think that's what Breakpoint tried to do with the Operation Greenstone insertion. All of your team gets killed.
Yeah.
But it
Actually,
didn't
what was
work out.
in Breakpoint, what really pulled me in as a player wasn't so much the Operation Greenstone thing. The one thing that pulled me in as a player is going back to Amber Ruin, the very first mission that you did with the boat, going through that village and seeing the devastation it did, and it was all basically just a big quote unquote test to see how
Mhm.
effective it was. You
Right.
walk past civilian dead bodies. You inspected some of those bodies. The
Yeah.
entire thing was like, dude, fuck these guys.
No, you're right. You're right. It's good storytelling, and that's what we're going to need on a future game. Listen, guys, we've been going for quite a long time already. Anyone got anything final they'd like to say on Wildlands before we finish off?
The banter of villains in Wildlands.
The banter
There's a
of
lot-
villains.
Like,
There's a lot of
it
rose
went-
tinted glasses. That's what I think. A lot of people look back in it with rose tinted glasses, and Tyrant Slayer will probably agree with me on that.
Yeah, I think you might be right. That
Or maybe Germany
when-
isn't it then?
maybe see what you're saying is like when people first played it and they loved it, and then maybe now they think it's better than what it actually was.
Yeah,
I've saw plenty
I
in the
totally feel
forums
that way.
recently. I've saw a few in the forums recently that
definitely.
Well, I
talk
was.
about going back to it now and not enjoying it anymore.
Yeah, I don't really enjoy it as much as when I was first involved with it.
Well, I mean, what I wanted to find out was, I haven't jumped in with Tyrant Slayer yet on the Wildlands game that he is doing right now. Kind of explain what you're doing with your challenges with Wildlands.
I'm not doing any challenges with Wildlands just yet. I started, obviously, I just got my PlayStation recently, and I just got the game even more recent than that. And, so I don't have any established characters, so I'm just building up my character right now before we start doing anything.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
Oh,
But I remember something where you said you were doing Unidad base hunting.
Oh yeah. We go in there and we go in there and poke the bear. Basically, we fly in there, and purposely jump out and drop the helicopter in the center of the base, and we basically we stay and fight until there's a good at least 2 minutes of no more Unidad coming in, and you're looking sometimes at an hour and a half, 2 hours of fighting.
Nice. I want to try that.
yeah.
That sounds fun.
It's just basically an all-out attack. I got a little story attached to it where we're just basically being a distraction for an extraction mission elsewhere, and that gives you the motivation, the reasoning for what we're doing, and we just go in there and basically kick everybody's ass until there's nobody's ass that's still left to kick.
Nice. I like it. Anyway, we're going to call it a day there. Thank you, gentlemen, everybody, for joining on the podcast. And like I said at the beginning, if you want to join us on a podcast later on down the line, join the Discord. The link is in the description below. And you can jump on with us. Thank you so much, everybody. Marcus, do you want to take us out?
Hey, wait,
Sure
one sec.
can.
1 second.
All right.
For anyone who does into the Discord, we currently just had access to a server banner. So if you guys want your pictures to be shown on the Discord server, all you have to do is join and then put in the channel labeled as server banner, and your photo will be shown for a whole month on the Discord server, whichever one, but it has to be Ghost Recon related. So go ahead and join in, share your photos with us, and you'll be showcased here.
Awesome. Cheers, bud.
This has been a Bullet Catcher Gaming podcast. Join us next time for another exciting episode. Join us in the Discord. The info is in the description. Signing off.